Some men don't just enter a life. They rearrange the room without trying. The air settles differently. Conversations grow calmer. Choices feel clearer. Long after they leave, something remains, like a clean line drawn through the noise that refuses to fade. If you have ever wondered why certain men are remembered without forcing attention, the answer is not charm, tricks, or conquest. It is calling. God doesn't make a spectacle. He makes a signature. And when he marks a man, the mark is felt before it is seen. Unforgettable is not an ego to be fed. It is a stewardship to be honored. You were not shaped to collect hearts like trophies. You were formed to carry hearts like a safe place. The unforgettable man is a standard, not a show. A signal, not static. He is not perfect, but he is anchored. He does not memorize lines, he lives truths. He isn't loud about himself because he's busy being present for others. This is why people remember him. Not because he demanded the spotlight, but because their soul finally exhaled in his shade. There is a holy gravity to a life aligned with purpose. A man who knows where he is going does not pull people into his storm. He invites them into his steadiness. He moves with direction rather than drift, with intention rather than impulse. His yes means yes, his no protects what matters, and his pace honors what is real. He carries calm like weather, truth like medicine, and kindness like a key. You don't forget the room where you finally felt safe, and you don't forget the person who made the room feel that way. But here is the secret. Unforgettable cannot be manufactured. You cannot posture your way into it, brand your way into it, or manipulate your way into it. Counterfeits glitter and then go dim. Calling glows. What lingers in memory is not the performance of a man, but the presence of God shaping the man. What remains is the trace of integrity instead of the residue of impression. Unforgettable is not a trick you deploy. It is a life you cultivate, quietly, consistently, humbly, until memory has no choice but to keep what love, truth and safety gave it. In this journey, we will name what actually imprints a soul. Purpose that creates gravity, presence that quiets anxiety, integrity that outlives charm, listening that makes people feel seen, strength that stays tender, and purity that turns desire into honor. You will learn how to carry these marks without theater, how to grow them without becoming rigid, and how to hold them with humility so that being remembered never becomes your goal, only the natural consequence of living in alignment. If somewhere in you this sounds familiar, as if I am describing the man you were designed to be, let that recognition rise. You are not here to play games with people's attention. You are here to leave rooms better than you found them, hearts safer than you met them, and memories cleaner than the world expects. If you want to become an unforgettable chosen one, check if you are still subscribed to the channel and comment the word unforgettable. That simple agreement marks the beginning of a new standard you will live, not sell. Now let us begin where all lasting impressions do, with aim. Because the first reason a man is hard to forget is simple and rare. He is a man on mission. Purpose is the difference between motion and movement. Anyone can stay busy. The chosen move the story forward. You can feel it the moment a chosen man walks into a room. He's not scanning for attention or permission. He is listening for assignment. His calendar is not a cage. It is a compass. He is not pushed by urgency. He is pulled by meaning. This quiet pull is why he lingers in memory. People may forget your words, but they do not forget the way a life with aim steadies their own. A man on mission does not drift because he already decided where yes must go. Purpose becomes a filter that makes 1,000 decisions in advance. It protects his mornings from randomness, his relationships from confusion, and his integrity from bargain prices. Notice the small human signs of this gravity. He shows up when he says he will, without drama, without the circus of constant explanations. He keeps the promises nobody was tracking, returning the tool he borrowed, following up after a prayer he promised, closing loops that most people leave dangling. He chooses stewardship over spectacle. He pays attention to what he has, grows it faithfully, and refuses to confuse virality with value. The result is a presence that feels like a North Star, steady, directional, quietly bright. Purpose also changes the way the chosen man handles time. Drift spends hours. Mission invests them. He knows the difference between activity and fruit, between being everywhere and being effective where he is needed. He is willing to be hidden because roots are not wasted. He understands that excellence in small assignments is not beneath him. It is how God trains hands for larger ones. He will sweep a floor with the same sincerity he brings to a stage, because the point was never applause, it was obedience. People remember this because humility with velocity is rare. He is going somewhere and he does not need to be seen doing it to keep going. There is strength in his pace. Purpose does not mean a frantic sprint. It means a deliberate stride. Watch how he honors limits. He sleeps, not as laziness but as loyalty to the body God gave him. He rests without guilt because rest is how a steward protects tomorrow's clarity. He fasts from the noise that fogs discernment. He refuses constant novelty because mastery requires a long attention span. In a world addicted to rush, the chosen man's unhurried confidence becomes unforgettable. He is the one who can look you in the eyes and stay with a single conversation long enough for shallow answers to run out and real truth to appear. Service is another signature of purpose. A mission that serves only the self is just branding with nicer words. The chosen thinks in circles, not spotlights. Who is helped, who is covered, who grows because he is present. He makes rooms feel safer because he carries responsibility like shelter. He solves without shaming, corrects without belittling, and lends his strength without making the moment about his strength. He does favors quietly and refuses to invoice people with reminders. The memory he leaves is not "he impressed me," but "he lifted me." People cling to that difference long after details fade. Purpose sharpens speech. The chosen man's words are not heavy because he talks loud. They are heavy because he talks clean. He tells the truth without sharp edges, makes commitments he intends to keep, and knows when silence says more. He does not promise the moon to be liked in the moment. He offers what he can actually deliver and then delivers it. Even his no is restorative because it is given early and kindly, not after a pile of excuses. A dependable no protects trust as much as a dependable yes. Women, friends, colleagues, everyone remembers the man whose language does not wander. Notice too how purpose shapes appetite. The chosen man's desires are not smaller. They are better trained. He is not distracted by every door that swings open because he knows not every open door was assigned to him. He is not for sale to the highest compliment. He resists shortcuts because he understands that process is not punishment. It is preparation. He is not afraid to start small or be misunderstood for a season, because the mission is older than the moment. That settled center reads like maturity, and maturity is magnetic in a world that confuses intensity with depth. Consistency is the quiet drumbeat of his life. He does not need a mood to be faithful. He builds habits that carry him when motivation is low, prayer at set times, work blocks that protect his craft, exercise that keeps his mind clear, generosity that keeps his heart soft. He puts anchors where storms can find them. Consistency may not trend, but it imprints. People remember the man who kept showing up, especially when no one was watching. Purpose also cleans the chosen man's circle. He chooses counsel over crowds, alignment over access. He is teachable without being gullible, decisive without being domineering. He keeps men around him who can tell him the truth and women around him who are safe because he is safe. He does not harvest attention. He nurtures trust. That distinction is rare enough to feel new, even ancient, and it stays with those who encounter it. Finally, purpose makes him generous. Not reckless generous. He shares credit, resources, opportunities, and attention because scarcity is not his God. He believes there is enough assignment for every obedient heart, so he can applaud without shrinking, mentor without competing, and listen without planning his own turn to speak. People do not forget the man who made room for them without expecting a debt. If you want to see whether purpose is forming in you, do not look first at the size of your platform. Look at the shape of your day. Are your yeses aligned? Are your nos timely? Are your habits carrying what your hopes cannot? Do people breathe easier around you because your mission is to build, not to consume? When the answers begin to tilt in the right direction, memory follows. Rooms remember the man who brought order, not noise, direction, not drift. Steadiness, not storm. This is the mark that begins the signature. The unforgettable chosen one does not haunt minds because he performed the loudest moment, but because he carried a clear, faithful aim that turned ordinary moments into turning points. And when aim is established, the next layer of the signature emerges, not noise, not bravado, but a presence that lowers anxiety and lifts the room without a single demand. Noise is easy, presence is rare. Loud bravado fills space. Sacred masculine presence holds it. A chosen man does not compete with the volume of a room, he changes its temperature. Anxiety lowers in his orbit, not because he dominates, but because he is anchored. He is not auditioning, he is available. That availability, calm, safe, truthful, is why people remember him long after his words fade. Calm. The chosen man carries a settled center that is hard to rattle. He is not numb. He is rooted. He breathes before he speaks. He asks a question before he reacts. He respects silence. He is comfortable letting 7 seconds pass so a real answer can surface. His pace tells the nervous system around him, you don't have to hurry to be seen here. He knows that frantic energy is contagious, so he refuses to be its carrier. This is not performance. It's practice. Sleep honored, prayer kept, body cared for, inputs curated. Calm is not a personality trait. It is stewardship, safety. Rooms feel safer because the chosen man has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. He does not flirt with ambiguity. He names intentions cleanly, asks permission clearly, and keeps boundaries as gifts, not weapons. He never uses attention as currency. He touches the world like a caretaker, not a consumer. People feel safe telling the truth because they sense he will not punish honesty with shame or use vulnerability as leverage later. Safety looks like consistency over time, clarity in the moment, and gentleness even when strength is required. Truth. He does not wield truth like a hammer. He brings it like a lantern. He tells the truth kindly, specific, proportionate, and aimed at repair, not victory. He can say, I was wrong without a theatrical apology, and I'm concerned without contempt. He is allergic to gossip because second-hand offense corrodes trust. His word count lowers as his accuracy rises. The result is a quiet authority. People lean in because they learned he will not waste their attention, and he will not abandon what he says when the wind shifts. Signals of presence in the small things. He puts his phone face down when someone is speaking. He remembers details and circles back. How did that meeting go? You mentioned your sister's surgery. How is she? He matches volume to the moment, doesn't interrupt the punchline with advice, and resists the savior reflex. He protects confidences without making a show of secrecy. He leaves places better than he found them. A washed dish, a straightened chair, a thank you note. None of this trends. All of it imprints boundaries that bless. The chosen man's no is part of what makes his presence safe. He does not say yes then disappear. He says no early and kindly if he cannot be faithful. He avoids intimacy that his character cannot carry. He will not escalate affection faster than trust. He does not keep doors cracked, just in case. He closes them with honor so that the doors he does open can become thresholds, not traps. Safety feels like honorable timing, clear limits, and clean desire under guidance. Conflict without combustion. Presence is tested when tensions rise. Watch how the chosen man disagrees. He lowers tone, raises curiosity, and trades generalizations for specifics. He seeks understanding before persuasion. He refuses to humiliate. He can hold someone's disappointment without collapsing into people-pleasing or exploding into control. Afterward, he circles back to stitch what the moment strained. People remember this because most have only known strength that bruises or passivity that abandons. Tender courage is unforgettable. Spiritual atmosphere. A man who prays carries different air. Not piety on display, but practiced communion that leaks into everything. He blesses rooms under his breath. He asks God for wisdom mid-sentence. He repents fast and forgives faster. He will pause a conversation to say, let's invite God into this. And somehow it doesn't feel awkward. It feels like relief. Women remember that. Everyone does. The soul recognizes a house where God is not a guest but the architect. How to cultivate this without performance. Slow your pace until your words can catch up with your heart. Train your nervous system, deep breaths, eye contact, full attention. Curate inputs, less outrage, more scripture, less comparison, more calling. Set simple liturgies, morning prayer, midday exam, evening gratitude. Practice consent language and clarity. May I? So is this a good time? Here's what I can offer. Here's what I cannot. Keep small promises. Let your presence be the proof. If this is the man you are becoming, anchor it now with a simple act that fits this moment of calm commitment. Comment the word steady below. Let that be your personal vow to carry calm, safety, and truth into every room you enter, quietly, consistently, unmistakably. Charm turns heads. Integrity turns seasons. Charm can sparkle for an evening. Integrity keeps shining when the lights are off. People may not articulate it at first, but the soul keeps a record of congruence, the quiet alignment between what a chosen man says, what he does, and who he is when nobody is watching. That alignment becomes a scent, subtle, clean, unmistakable. Long after the conversation ends, the memory of trust remains. That is why integrity is unforgettable. It outlives performance. Promise-keeping is memory work. The chosen man treats promises like architecture, not decoration. He does not decorate a moment with commitments he cannot carry. He says, "I'll call you Tuesday," and calls Tuesday. He says, "I'll pray for you," and later asks how it went. He closes loops others leave open, and the mind remembers that closure with relief. Reliability is not glamorous, but the nervous system learns to relax around him because reality consistently matches his words. Private discipline, public ease. Integrity is forged off stage. The habits no one applauds, rising to pray, logging the workout, honoring the budget, shutting the laptop when it's time to be present, quietly shape a man who can be trusted on stage without straining. Private order creates public ease. When pressure hits, he doesn't borrow peace from pretense. He draws it from practiced restraint. That steadiness registers like a clean fragrance, not sprayed on, lived in, boundaries that are blessings, not barriers. Because his yes means yes, his no arrives early and kind. He declines what would dilute his word, which is why his word remains strong. He will not accept intimacy he cannot steward or attention he cannot honor. He refuses ambiguous signals and vague obligations. This clarity protects people, not just schedules. It keeps relationships from becoming negotiation arenas. True boundaries are not walls against love. They are trellises that help love grow straight. Truth without theater. Integrity is not a search for dramatic honesty moments. It is quiet accuracy over time. He tells the truth proportionately. No exaggeration to impress, no omission to manipulate. He corrects himself in real time. I overstated that. Here's the precise number. He admits ignorance without embarrassment and shifts course when new facts arrive without pretending he planned it. This absence of spin is surprisingly magnetic in a world addicted to angles, consistency under pressure. Anyone can be agreeable when outcomes are favorable. Watch the chosen man when deadlines slide, when deals wobble, when he's misunderstood. He refuses shortcuts that would stain tomorrow's conscience. He pays what he owes. He returns what's not his. He apologizes without adding a courtroom of excuses. He seeks repair, not vindication. People remember who stayed principled when convenience invited compromise, stewardship over spectacle. Integrity has a spending pattern. He doesn't buy status to rent significance. He treats resources, money, time, attention as tools to build, not props to perform. He credits others by name, shares wins with the team, and takes responsibility in the singular. He is as careful with someone else's reputation as he is with his own. Where others curate an image, he cultivates a life. Image fades, life lingers, clean exits, clean entries. Integrity shows in how he ends things. He breaks off what he cannot continue with clarity and kindness, not ghosting. He returns keys, cancels access, and leaves instructions for the next steward. He honors what was good without rewriting history to justify moving on. Likewise, he enters new spaces slowly and honestly, setting expectations instead of overpromising. People remember this because it heals a common wound, being left confused, the audit trail of small things. Doors opened, chairs pushed in, messages answered, names remembered. He doesn't broadcast these habits. He repeats them. The accumulation writes an audit trail that any observer could follow and say, this is who he is, not who he pretends to be. After enough repetitions, those around him stop bracing. Their guard lowers. Their memory, grateful for rest, keeps his name, guarding the interior. Integrity requires inner housekeeping. The chosen man monitors resentment before it becomes sabotage, envy before it becomes theft, fatigue before it becomes failure. He confesses early, seeks counsel quickly, practices Sabbath fiercely. He knows that unaddressed pain eventually chooses a dishonest exit. By tending his heart, he protects his word. What integrity does to attraction. Attraction built on intensity fades when intensity dips. Attraction built on integrity deepens as evidence accrues. Women, friends, colleagues, all remember the man whose steady truth kept their dignity intact. He does not leave a residue of confusion or the aftertaste of being used. He leaves people clearer, calmer, cleaner. That is a fragrance memory does not release. When you think of the men you cannot forget, chances are it isn't their speeches you recall. It's their follow-through. Not their emphasis, but their exactness. Not their charisma, but their character. This is the scent you are called to carry. And from here, the signature grows even more human and more piercing. Not in what you say about yourself, but in how you see others. Because few things mark the soul more indelibly than being deeply, attentively seen. Being deeply seen is unforgettable. Compliments fade, gifts get used up, performances blur, but the experience of being carefully heard and accurately reflected lives on in a person's memory like a lamp left on in a quiet room. A chosen man does not listen in order to reply, he listens in order to receive. He treats another person's words as stewardship, not background noise. He allows their story to take up space without competing for the spotlight, and the dignity that gives is what the heart remembers. Real listening starts before the first sentence. He arrives with attention instead of adrenaline, puts the phone away without announcing that he did, positions his body openly and lets his eyes communicate. You are safe to be honest here. He does not interrupt the first draft of someone's thought. He lets silence do some of the lifting so a truer second draft can surface. He remembers that most people do not need a savior in the conversation. They need a witness. When advice is appropriate, he asks permission first. Would it help if I shared an observation? So counsel becomes partnership rather than intrusion. Curiosity is his method because curiosity is love with questions. He asks specifics that anchor the story to reality. What part of that meeting felt hardest? Where did you feel it in your body? What would better look like by Friday? And those specifics tell the speaker that their experience matters at the level where life is actually lived. He avoids why questions that sound like cross-examination and chooses how and what questions that open doors. He resists the temptation to top their pain with his example or to redirect the spotlight to his own triumph. He knows that empathy cannot coexist with one-upmanship. Recall is the quiet proof that he listened. Days later, he circles back, not with a generic, "How are you?" but with the thread he kept. You said your mom's results would come on Tuesday. Did they? You mentioned feeling small around that colleague. How did yesterday go? This is not surveillance. It is shepherding. Details remembered become dignity returned. The mind keeps a record of who held space and who required performance. The record favors the one who listened. Reflection is how he helps people hear themselves without shame. He offers back a clean mirror. It sounds like you felt ignored even though you were carrying most of the load. I'm hearing that you want the role, but not at the cost of your health, and then waits, letting them confirm or correct. He paraphrases lightly to check understanding rather than to prove intelligence. When he misreads, he apologizes immediately and tries again. Accuracy matters more than winning the moment, and humility keeps accuracy honest. Discernment keeps his listening from becoming indulgence. He can tell the difference between venting that needs a time limit and grieving that needs more time. He can sense when a story is protecting a wound with anger or a pattern with blame. He asks brave questions without accusation. What do you think your part was? What would taking responsibility look like from here? And he anchors the conversation in truth, so it can lead to freedom rather than circles. His goal is never to keep someone dependent on his ear, but to point them toward God's voice and their own agency. Boundaries make his attention safe. He does not invite disclosures he cannot hold, and he does not promise availability he cannot keep. He will gently say, "I want to give this the focus it deserves. Can we continue at 7 p.m. when I'm free?" So that presence stays presence and does not become pretense. He protects confidences fiercely and never converts someone else's vulnerability into social capital. People learn that their story will not travel without their consent, and trust deepens by the week. Non-verbal care makes the listening land. He mirrors posture without mimicking, modulates tone to the room's emotion, slows his breathing when the other person is anxious, and uses stillness to keep the moment from feeling rushed. He notices tears without panicking and humor without derailing. He knows that sometimes handing over a glass of water, opening a window, or taking a brief walk side by side will do more to unlock honesty than a dozen perfectly phrased questions. Intercession turns attention into covering. He does not end hard conversations with a platitude. He asks, "May I pray for you now or later?" and honors the answer. When welcomed, he prays simply and specifically, using details the person offered rather than generic lines. He invites God's wisdom and peace into the exact knot they named. The memory of being carried that way, without pressure, without show, anchors itself deeper than any advice could. Practice keeps this from becoming a performance. He chooses a few simple rituals to make attention his default: 3 breaths before answering, 1 question for every opinion, a habit of writing down 2 details to follow up on later, setting a time boundary at the start so both hearts can relax, ending with a summary of next steps so hope has a handle. Over time, these small choices form a reputation. With him, I am seen. With him, I'm not a project. With him, my words are safe. What this does to attraction is both pure and powerful. Being accurately seen is rarer than being praised and far more nourishing. Compliments can flatter the surface. Attention restores the center. Women remember the man whose presence was spacious enough for their whole truth, messy, marvelous, unresolved, and who did not shrink from it or try to manage it. Friends and colleagues remember too. The heart keeps that imprint because it tasted home. If you are building this kind of presence, keep going when no one applauds. Most people will not immediately name what is different. They will simply find themselves exhaling near you and looking forward to the next conversation without knowing why. That is the quiet glory of a chosen man who listens. He does not make himself unforgettable. He makes others feel unforgettable in his care, and that, more than any speech or performance, is what memory refuses to release. From here, the signature gathers strength in a paradox the world rarely believes: the man who stands firm without growing hard, who can correct without contempt and apologize without theater. That blend does not just impress, it builds trust. And trust, more than intensity or style, is what the heart remembers. Tender courage begins with how he holds power. He understands that power is for protection, not possession, for service, not self-inflation. He can step forward without stepping on. He sets the temperature of a room without stealing the oxygen. When he covers someone, he does it without turning them into a project or a trophy. He allows others to remain themselves under his shelter, no shrinkage required, no loyalty tax demanded. People feel taller in his shade because he uses strength to create room rather than to occupy it. Correction reveals his character. Anyone can point out a flaw. Few can do it without contempt. The chosen man corrects like a craftsman, not a critic. He names the issue precisely, stays with the problem instead of attacking the person, and frames the future as reachable. Here is what better looks like. Here is how we'll get there. Here is what I will carry with you. His voice lowers rather than rises. His words are proportionate instead of punishing. He knows humiliation produces compliance, not growth, so he refuses it, even when anger would be easier. People remember the rare experience of being challenged and dignified at the same time. Apology is another canvas where tender courage paints clearly. He does not turn repentance into theater, nor into a negotiation to reduce consequences. He says, "I was wrong," and lets those words stand without a parade of excuses. He asks what repair requires and then does it. replacing what was broken, restoring what was stolen, time, trust, attention, and accepting the timeline of rebuilding without sulking. Because he does not make the apology about his discomfort, others are free to heal at a true pace. The memory that lingers is not of a man who never failed, but of a man who would not lie to keep his image clean. Boundaries reveal his tenderness as much as his bravery. He does not collapse his life into everyone's demand and then resent the very people he intended to love. He tells the truth about his limits early and kindly, which keeps his yes sacred and his presence reliable. He understands that saying no to what is misaligned is a way of saying yes to the people and promises God already entrusted to him. This is not coldness. It is covenant thinking. Those under his care learn that his word is a place to rest, not a place to gamble. In conflict, his courage shows up as curiosity before force. He asks, "Help me understand," and means it. He refuses to generalize a person into their worst moment or to weaponize past mistakes as leverage. He holds the line when principle demands it, but he keeps the door of return unlocked. He distinguishes between reconciliation, which requires two, and forgiveness, which he can practice alone, and he does both in the right order. This precision prevents unnecessary fractures and speeds real healing. People remember the rare mercy of a firm boundary delivered with a soft heart. His tenderness does not come from fear of intensity. It is chosen restraint. He can be fierce when danger threatens, but he stores that fierceness for the right enemy. He fights for people, not with them. He raises his shield more often than his voice. He trains his reflexes so that strength arrives measured, not messy, steady hands in emergencies, clear commands when seconds matter, quiet debriefs when the dust settles. Those who have lived through panicked leaders feel the difference in their bodies. Nervous systems learn to relax around this kind of strength. Humility keeps the courage clean. He does not require constant gratitude to continue serving. He does not perform exhaustion to be praised for sacrifice. He receives encouragement without becoming addicted to it, and criticism without becoming allergic to it. He deflects flattery with shared credit and meets honest feedback with questions instead of defense. Because he is not busy protecting an image, he can protect people. The absence of ego noise is part of what makes him easy to remember. You recall the work done, not the drama staged. Gentleness is not the absence of edge. It is the art of using the right edge at the right time. He knows when to speak and when to hold silence so the other can find their words. He knows when to push and when to pace. He can carry grief without becoming grim, joy without becoming careless. He laughs easily but never at someone's expense. He holds babies with the same care he brings to hard decisions because both are sacred. The sum of these instincts is felt as trust. You do not brace yourself around him. You unfold. Tender courage also shows up in how he handles desire. He does not weaponize attention, escalate intimacy to feed insecurity, or ask others to pay for wounds he has not addressed. He names his intentions clearly and moves at the speed of trust. He refuses shortcuts that would steal tomorrow's honor for today's relief. He understands that restraint is not repression. It is reverence toward God, toward himself, toward the person in front of him. Encounters with this kind of man feel rare because they are. Rarity registers as unforgettable. Leadership under pressure is where the paradox crystallizes. When plans fail, he stays present. When tempers flare, he stays kind. When options narrow, he stays creative. He tells the truth about risk without infecting the room with fear, and he refuses to buy short-term peace with long-term compromise. He keeps people informed so they are not left to the torment of imagination. He names wins generously and owns losses personally. Teams come to associate his presence with clarity, fairness, and progress, even in hard seasons. That association becomes a durable memory. The chosen man's courage is generational. He thinks beyond the next victory and into the legacy his choices will write in other people's habits. He is careful with younger eyes that watch him, with older hands that paved the way for him, with peers who run beside him. He is content to plant trees whose shade he may never sit under. He is willing to be misunderstood for choosing the narrow path if it means those who follow will find it wider by the time they arrive. People remember builders more than performers. To cultivate this paradox, he trains in small arenas. He practices pausing before he replies, blessing before he critiques, asking before he assumes, and repairing before he moves on. He makes amends quickly when he gets it wrong, because tender courage does not stall in pride. He maintains rhythms that keep his soul soft: scripture, silence, honest friendship, physical care, so hardness cannot accumulate in the name of efficiency. He keeps a short list of questions that recalibrate him in tense moments. What does love require here? What protects dignity? What will I be proud of in 10 years? What this blend does to memory is simple and profound. Most people have experienced strength that bruises and softness that buckles. Few have encountered strength that heals and softness that holds. When they do, the impression is both emotional and embodied. Breath slows, shoulders drop, hope returns. Later, when they think of the chosen man, they don't just recall his words, they remember how their own courage rose in his presence. That rise is the signature. From here, the signature turns to stewardship of desire and timing, the clean power of purity and the kind geometry of boundaries. Because unforgettable is not only what you give, it is also what you refuse to take. Purity is not prudishness. It is honor under guidance, and it makes every connection feel safe, sacred, and rare. A man is not remembered because he demanded attention. He is remembered because he carried what people rarely meet all at once: aim, presence, integrity, attention, courage, purity, and faithful consistency in small things. This is the path we traced, marked by God, formed by purpose, carried by calm and safety, sealed by integrity, expressed through listening that dignifies, strengthened by tenderness with a spine, and protected by boundaries that keep desire holy. None of it is theater. All of it is stewardship. When purpose sets your direction, rooms stop feeling like stages and start feeling like assignments. When presence lowers anxiety, people associate you with peace. When integrity outlives charm, trust doesn't have to keep checking your math. When you listen until someone feels seen, they carry your attention like a light that doesn't burn out. When strength stays tender, correction heals instead of humiliating, and apologies repair instead of performing. When purity guides appetite and timing, connection feels safe, sacred, and rare. And when legacy grows in small moments, meals cooked, prayers whispered, laughter shared, storms sat through, memory turns into something deeper than echo. It becomes inheritance. This is the signature God writes through a chosen life. It cannot be manufactured, but it can be cultivated. Walk slowly enough to be present, deeply enough to be trustworthy, humbly enough to remain teachable, and bravely enough to protect what is sacred. Let your yes be clean, your no be kind, your words be few and accurate, your boundaries be blessings, and your habits carry what your hopes alone cannot. In time, you won't need to remind anyone who you are. Love, truth, and safety are hard to forget, and that is the impression you will leave. Not a performance that fades, but a life that keeps giving itself away long after the room is quiet. If this spoke to your spirit and you're choosing to live this signature, check that you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next, and comment the word unforgettable below to seal your decision in public and in practice. Thank you for being here. Grace and strength over your path. Walk light, walk true, and I'll see you in the next message.